Welcome back to At the Farm Gate. I'm Jack Hughes, and today we're tackling one of the biggest challenges this season, avian influenza, and how to stop it at the farm gate. Joining me is Wayne Olbison from LANXESS. We'll cover what's happening with AI, how practical biosecurity measures like foot dips, wheel washes, and disinfectants can make a real difference, and the right way to clean and disinfect poultry houses. We'll also look why disinfectants are important and why it is important to ensure they are used correctly, and why the right mindset is just as important as the tools you use. So let's get into it.
Wayne, you've worked across almost every part of the poultry industry, from farm management and nutrition to technical support. Could you start by giving us an overview of your career journey and what ultimately led you to the position you play today?
Thanks for inviting me, Jack. I appreciate that. It's nice to get involved with these kind of situations. There's a lot going on out there. So my background really is poultry production. My father, this was going back some years, my father built the original Eastwood's turkey sheds in Hemsworth, West Yorkshire, that are now farmed by Stephen Hayes family. And they do broilers there. The sheds were built for about 15, 20 years and they've been up for about 50. So I think he was a half decent builder. They've done okay. But I worked there straight from school. I got a little bit bored with it and I wanted a bit more responsibility. So I then went to Fessenda and I ran one of their biggest chicken farms, 365,000. A lot of chickens in them days. You know, we're talking 30 years ago, a big farm in them days. I was the first person, I think, in Fessenda, I don't think in the country, to break the 280 EPF. And that was a massive achievement in them days. And if you got a 280 EPF now, you'd probably get the sack. So things have moved on so much. So I did that for a while. Then I went to what used to be Grampian Country Food Group, a really nice business in various parts of the country. I worked in East Anglia, worked for various bosses there, Clay Burrows, Lionel Halls, really good guys, know their stuff. And then there was just really nowhere to go. So I was approached by what was at the time PD Hook Broilers. So I went to PD Hook Broilers, worked for James Hook. Really nice business, some great people there. Within a short period of time, it became Hook Two Sisters. So the Two Sisters Food Group and PD Hook Broilers joined as a joint venture. Went on for quite a while from there. Decided to have a little bit of break from poultry production and dipped my toe into pharmaceutical. Went to Zoetis for a little while, had a few years at Zoetis, being their field services manager. A little spell at Devonish Nutrition, Irish-based business, really good. Belfast-based business, really good business. But the travelling was too much. I was travelling everywhere, a lot of international work. I had a youngish family at the time, and I was approached by a recruiter to see if I was interested to go to what used to be BioLink. BioLink used to be one of the top 3-4 companies for biosecurity products. And I joined BioLink. I knew some of the products. I'd worked with them in the past, so I joined BioLink. It was more UK and Ireland based rather than travelling. And then within a few months, LANXESS bought us in 2020. LANXESS bought us, 2021, sorry, LANXESS bought us. And I've been here ever since. So I look after the UK and Ireland as sales manager. I have 3 or 4 people in my team, and they're called biosecurity salespeople and advisors. And we deal with individuals and end user farmers, integrators, distributors. LANXESS is a huge global business. The part of LANXESS that I work for is called LANXESS Biosecurity Solutions, and some people still refer to it as Antec International. It's not been Antec since about 2003, 2004, and it's had various owners up to that point, and LANXESS are now the owner of the historical Antec business. So people still call it Antec. It's a good global trade name, which is great. But we're a small part of LANXESS. We're probably 5% of the total revenue of LANXESS. It's a huge global organisation dealing with chemistry in construction, agriculture, mechanical, lots of stuff. So that's seems like I've had a lot of jobs, to be fair, Jack. But that's the story.
Well, you definitely had a varied career and touched every part of the industry, and you are bringing that practical side from the farming into what you're doing now as well. So, We are in a rough time at the minute. We've seen more than 50 avian influenza outbreaks since the start of October through commercials, large and small, but from breeding stock to layers to turkeys, and so from your perspective and some of your practical knowledge, what should the industry be preparing for in the months ahead?
I think this year, Jack's going to be quite a difficult year. And when you think about 2025, I don't think we've had one single month where there's not been a commercial poultry business, whether it be eggs or turkeys or chicken, without an outbreak. And that's been quite different to previous years, where you normally get a spell through the summer with no outbreaks or only wild bird cases. And I think I went to the EPIC conference a few weeks ago, and Ian Brown, the Professor Ian Brown, very clever guy, he was indicating that DEFRA and all the associated governing bodies are probably preparing for it to be a similar winter to 2022-23, where I think there was well over 200 cases, lots of culling, lots of farms affected nationwide, no specific region, it was everywhere. And as you just said, we were over 50, best part of 60 cases now, and we're not even at the end of the year. We don't start counting from the beginning of October, so we're already at that kind of level, best part of 60. So I think we can expect the worst. I hate to say that because it's quite a difficult time for people, and people get caught up in it, and it affects people's economy, people's jobs, everything to do with the people that are growing the chicken. But I think we need to expect a very similar situation to 22-23. And my colleagues in the other countries as well, Jack, Poland, for example, the guy that does my job in Poland and France and Germany, they're in a similar position, massive outbreaks, and very similar to a previous year.
Yeah, we're definitely following the same pattern as we've seen in the past, and the most we can do is bring biosecurity to the forefront, and we're in housing orders in certain parts of the country. Biosecurity is key, and looking after the integrity of our sheds to ensure that this virus can't get in. But you spend a lot of time out on farms supporting producers with practical biosecurity as well. So when you're demonstrating things like the use of wheel washes, foot dips, disinfectant routines, what are the most common good practices and the most common mistakes you see when you're out on farm?
I think it's important to say initially, Jack, I think most farmers and most farm managers for integrators are actually trying to do the right thing. They're trying to do their best. I think there is a focus on education that we need to adopt without ramming it down people's throats. When farm managers hear biosecurity, they just get fed up with it. There's biosecurity fatigue to some degree, but it's important. We need to know, we need to make sure people are doing the right thing. But I think some of the things I see that frustrate me, and I'm not in these businesses anymore, but what frustrates me when I see visitor books people not signing in, people just turn up on farm, don't sign in, and that to me, it might be a small overlook, but it's very key. If you've got some guy driving around unknowingly taking disease from farm to farm to farm, and if people are signing in, you can see where that disease may be tracked and stop that guy. And again, he's not intentionally doing it, he's totally oblivious to it. But the signing in and the register of visitors is for me is really important. I also see wheel washers. They frustrate me. Wheel washers where people drive on site, and sometimes there's no need. Feed lorries, of course, need to be on site. Maybe repair people and doing the maintenance. They need to be on site, but we don't need everyone driving on the site. And sometimes you'll go to a wheel wash, and it's actually empty. There's no stock solution made. There's nothing there. So people are washing the wheels with water, if they are washing the wheels at all. So that's a little bit of an issue that needs a bit more monitoring. And measuring disinfectants, I think, without being too rude, a lot of people don't measure. They glug product into a water volume and they expect it to be the right amount. And we all know that if product A is approved at 3% on the DEFRA approval list, if you've used less than 3%, it's not working. It's not actually doing anything. You're not killing the pathogens. It's being tested at that level to kill. So we need to educate people on the volumes and make sure people are using the right amount. And I think one of the things that's catching people out, that's probably wrong, not catching people out. One of the things that's an issue right now is our reduction to 30 kgs. With the reduction to 30 kgs, we're 20% less homegrown birds. And because of that, people have got shorter turnarounds because we're trying to make sure we don't rely on imports. We're trying to make sure that we are using our own stock, but people are tightening these turnarounds up. Instead of having a week or 10 days, we're down to 4 and 5 days. And I think that 30 kg is a bit of an issue, but I think everyone's trying to do the best, but these are the things now that have come to play a part. And I think we just need that education, Jack. We need people to be aware of what they're doing and some education without being horrible about it. People are trying to do the right thing.
Oh, of course, and I think like when you're talking about, measurements, for instance, there is easier ways of doing this with just marking a cup and knowing exactly where you need to be at all the time, and ensuring that everybody on the site who's doing that understands exactly that's the level, that's what you need, and everyone follows the same routine, because you can ask 5 people on a farm and you'll get 5 different answers of how much.
And to be fair, we have done that. We've seen that actually happen, and the guys in my team, that they're on farm a bit more than me these days, and they go and do audits and hygiene inspections and trying to support. And they'll ask, for example, 2 or 3 people sat in the canteen, what do you use for your foot dips and how much you put in? And you'll get 2 or 3 different answers. And you think, and it's all right if you're doing more than the requirement to some degree, but less than the requirement. Again, you're not actually killing the pathogen that the product's being approved for.
Exactly, and I think that's a mentality thing where you think if I put more in, it'll be stronger and it'll do a stronger job. I think, as you mentioned there, when actually it's making it more ill-effective than effective. It's not actually affecting what it should be doing and acting as it should do if we're using too much or we're using too little. And you touched a little bit there, on wheel washes, and that's something, something what we look at as a company as well when we're out on farmers. If we can stop people going onto farm at all, ultimately we can't stop feed wagons and egg collection lorries and pullet deliveries. But if we can keep, staff off in their vehicles and just general people who are coming onto farm and visitors, then don't actually need them to be in there. So that's one less risk. But do you think when people put a wheel wash in, for instance, and all singing, all dance, that they think that that's it, they've achieved what they need to achieve because they've got this, they've spent a lot of money and they've put this automatic wheel washer in there and the vehicle's getting sprayed? But how effective are they?
I think it's good if people invest in a good comprehensive wheel wash rather than a knapsack sprayer at the gate. If you've got a decent wheel wash, that's it. All right, there's a cost to it. Someone has to pay for that. And but if you're the farmer and you are serious about doing whatever you can to keep disease off farm, that's great. I think that you still need to use. It's choice of products as well. Some people are using a product that has a contact time of maybe 1 hour. Well, that's not right for wheel washers or foot dips. You need contact times of a minute or so or 2 minutes, just to make sure that you're doing the job properly, quickly, and it's doing it. And I think we all know once that vehicle's gone through the wheel wash or the sprayer, it's then picking up debris and stuff off the farm as the wheels are rolling around. We still have to do it. Doing something is better than doing nothing, and everything's a prevention, and everything is going to help. But just use the right products. There's no point putting in there I'm exaggerating here, but there's no point putting in there a phenolic that needs a 2-hour contact time when the vehicle's not even going to be on the farm for 2 hours. So we need to be doing the right thing with the right products and get advice. That there's other supply companies other than us, and you'll have your choice of people you use, but ask the people. You ask the experts. We're in this position because we are the experts in this particular field. Ask the experts and get some sensible advice.
Of course. And it's one thing, we see where you come through these sprays and next minute you go through and again, and then, you've got the dust off the road back onto your car, and your car looks like a bit like a leopard by the time you get to where you need to be parking. which really emphasises the need to just keep the vehicle off. If we can do that and keep the
Absolutely.
vehicle,
Yeah.
vehicle away.
And one other thing, sorry, Jack, one other thing I really don't like, and I see this in various places, where you have a drive-through wheel wash. So you're actually driving through liquid and it's maybe halfway up your wheels. That's just a bacteria disease soup. It's just how you can't. If you use a product that's affected by sunlight, it's probably inactive anyway. B, how often do you keep topping it up with the amount of water that's in that drive-through wheel wash? All the runoff that comes from it, you drive through and it all spills out. Where does that go? It's into the environment. They're not great solutions. They may have been historically years ago a means to an end, but they're really not good. And if you've got any disease in there, it's there all the time. So you're actually infecting vehicles coming into your farm with whatever's in that bloody pond.
Yeah, what's been sat in there for for the duration of time it's been there.
Birds drinking out of it, birds defecating into it, all the risks. It's just a big risk.
You touched a little bit there on contact times and best practice, and one thing what we're seeing and we're seeing quite more often now, and part of assurance schemes is boot changes. That is the ultimate specifically when we're getting into sheds and then into live bird areas. It is that boot changing which is the most effective. And foot dips, they are often misunderstood in regards to contact time. We all see it when we go out onto farm. People just dip the foot straight in and then step back out to the place where they've just dipped the foot in. I mean, what is the best practice? How do we keep on top of foot dips actually being effective? And in your point of view, I mean, this is a two questions here. How effective is a foot dip going into a live bird area where it's only dipping boots which have been in the live bird area, if that makes sense, which are full of debris and muck? I mean, how effective are they at that point?
I think since the introduction of barrier systems quite a long time ago now, I think the UK poultry industry has come a long way, and there's been quite a few innovations. Not science, it's not rocket science, but there's been quite a few things put in place to help disease spread, and the barrier system is a great innovation. And I think it's seen that inside the barrier and into the sheds is almost seen as a clean area, even though inside the barrier might be quite dirty, it's full of debris, but it's debris from that chicken house or turkey house. It's not from outside. You've not brought anything in. So I think if you dip your feet outside in a fast-acting product and you step inside the chicken house and you change your boots while you're in the chicken house, your boots have still got that contact time to kill anything that you might have walked into what is considered the dirty area, and then you're going to walk back out. So you're not taking that into the chicken house. Change your boots, go in the shed, do what you have to do, then come out. But again, then you go to the next shed, make sure you dip your feet, because God knows what you've picked up going from one chicken house to another. And I think we all accept under a lot of circumstances, we as operators and farmers, we potentially do walk these diseases into our buildings. There are cases where there's vectors like pests, rats, mice, wild birds, things like that can get in. They can potentially carry it, but they're the extreme, and they're not very common. And you might have a leaky roof where there's been some kind of disease on the roof, and that gets in. But ordinarily, we are the controllers of walking in and out of these buildings and taking the disease with us. So it's so easy, Jack. You've got an alarm calling in the middle of the night. You've got out of bed at 2:00. You run down to your farm. It's shed 5, for example. You just go dashing in, and you've not bothered changing your boots just because it's an emergency. And they're the situations that potentially catch people out. And I think we're all possibly or probably guilty of cutting corners. But when you're in a disease, particularly when you're in a disease-infected area or a protected zone, it's only just up the road from where you are. And we all know that wild birds are the biggest transmitter from farm to farm. So, just do the job properly.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Wayne. And as you said, disease only has to get lucky once. It only takes that once where you run in and step over that barrier and misjudge doing the biosecurity, and that's it. And it's potentially in there.
And it takes seconds to change boots. It takes seconds. We're not talking about lace-up boots, and it's going to take 5 minutes to take them off and 5 minutes to put more on. It takes seconds. So whatever the emergencies in that chicken house or poultry house, it's very unlikely to be worsened by a delay of 3 or 4 seconds, or even half a minute, whatever it may be, because you're rushing, you want to get it done. So chances are it's not going to get any worse.
Yeah. So we've spoke around, daily usage and wheel washes and foot dips. And one thing I'd like to touch on now is turnaround. So, looking more broadly at the disinfectant, what we're using during turnarounds of units, normal turnarounds and avian influenza outbreak turnarounds, which we can get onto that.
Yeah.
But what is best practice when we're looking at a farm, we've mucked it out, we've cleaned it down. What is the best practice from that point to ensure we're fully disinfected prior to the birds getting into that unit?
For me, Jack, there shouldn't be too much of a difference between cleaning and disinfecting as routine and cleaning and disinfecting an AI infected premises. They both deserve the same amount of attention to detail and the procedure. I do accept that we're under time constraints for routine disinfection. So if you've got no particular disease issue, you might find yourself, and I've seen it now again with this 30 kg situation. I've seen farms where we're washing one end of the chicken house and we've still got muck in the other end being loaded onto a lorry. And ideally, you want all the muck off the site before you start washing. I've seen people mixing chemicals because they don't seem to have time to do one chemistry, let it dry, put the next one on. That's dangerous. If you're going to do that, I wouldn't advise it, but if you're going to do that, speak to your supplier. Be careful what you're mixing, that kind of thing. You look after yourself as well. Safety first is the primary idea here. And I think if you went through if you're going to do it from an AI point of view, which if you had time should be the same as the other, all the litter off the site first, then wash with a really good detergent, probably a 2% alkaline cleaner. Alkalines get more proteins and things that birds or the animals leave behind. If you've got a particular problem, you could use an acid cleaner, but alkalines seem to be more popular. So 2% or whatever the supplier recommends as a percentage. Probably, if you have got the time, wet the shed first. Just walk through the shed and wet it. Either use your misting system or wet it. If you wet the shed first and you put the detergent on, it lifts quicker, it lifts more, it helps to get it off. And don't leave it too long. I see situations where people will foam a shed and then go for a fag and a cup of tea and they come back and it's dried on, it's caked on, and that takes a lot of getting off after that. So you give it 30 minutes, no more than 20, 30 minutes. Most cleaners are designed to work in that time, 20, 30 minutes, go back and rinse off. The key word there, Jack, is rinse. I think a lot of particularly contract cleaners still leave their power hoses on full power. Well, you need to rinse it off. The detergent's done the job. If you've done a good enough dry clean and you've wet the surface and you put the detergent on, that's done the job. You're rinsing it off. You're not washing power hosing it off. You're power hosing. You just aerosol everything back into the air. It's in the atmosphere. It settles on clean areas again. So, turn down your power a little bit. Make sure the shed's rinsed out properly, and once it's washed, get your foot dips in place. A lot of people don't do that. They do it when the whole clean-out team's been and gone and disappeared. Get your foot dips in place as soon as you've washed. Don't let anybody in there without dipping the feet. Then once it's dry, use an appropriate disinfectant. Let that dry, use another one. And we do, always recommend 2 disinfectants. One disinfectant won't do everything. Use a disinfectant that's a fast-acting one. Like an oxidizing chemistry, a pink powder or something like that. And you do see some people using those second. If you use a pink powder or an oxidizing chemistry second and the surface isn't dry that you've applied it to, again, you wasted your money. It's almost like disinfecting without the right amount of product. You've wasted your money because it usually gets inactivated. So use your fast acting one first, give it time to dry. And if it doesn't have time to dry, at least it's done its job for you because it's a fast acting chemistry. Then going with the second one. And I try to encourage people to use something that's applicable to coccidiosis. Some people say they don't have cocci because they don't have any bird problems. Cocci is endemic in poultry. You've always got cocci. You might not see it to a point where it's obvious, but you will have some kind of performance impact on cocci. So if your second disinfectant has a cocci type effect or chemistry in there that helps with that, all the better. again, let them dry and then put your litter in. But I think the key thing is when you finish washing, put dips out, make people sign in, wash the wheels, just keep it clean. You've cleaned it or someone's cleaned it, keep it clean.
Yeah,
but pay the same attention to it. AI or routine, it needs the same attention. It deserves the same attention.
I think you're right though, Ian, and that's something everyone should be focusing on, is that biosecurity, and unfortunately we can't. I think that's the issue. We can't really put a price on what biosecurity means.
No.
For producers, where a producer dipping his feet, what is that making him, or am I getting more eggs? Is there more meat going out of the door?
Yeah.
And it's like this invisible barrier, what we really don't see the monetization of. And I think once we can really show that actually biosecurity pays, it will pay you back. It will lessen mortality. It will get you more eggs. It will get you more meat out of the door. Then I'm a big believer in, if you look after the small things, the big thing will look after itself. So if we focus on the daily challenges, which are affecting producers every day throughout the country in loss of production and higher mortality, actually then AI should just it should look after itself.
Yeah. And for me, I don't want to be too blasé about it. AI is a virus. I think it's a non-envelope virus. I'm not sure. I'm no expert. They're really easy to kill. They're really easy to kill, the viruses. Just clean it properly, disinfect it properly with the right product, with the right application rate. And if you're unsure, talk to the experts. Look on DEFRA. DEFRA is not the easiest thing to understand because it gives you a ratio rather than a percentage.
Yeah.
But a lot of people struggle with DEFRA. They think the higher the number, 1 to 50, 1 to 200, they think the 200 is worse, but it's not. The higher the figure is, that's the amount of water you need to 1 part of product. So the higher the number, the more economical it is. Look at the cost in use, not look at the cost of the drum. Use the products at the approved rate.
Yeah. Now you're touching on DEFRA approved here. And Virkon is a familiar name to most producers and probably most widely used disinfectant on farms. Yet it is known to come on and off that DEFRA approved disinfectant list, and no sooner is it off than is it back on with. But I mean, just for our listeners, could you give us a short explanation on why farmers should understand that this happens and that there is no implication on the product as such? It's just the process in what DEFRA are taking.
Look, I can only give you my understanding of it. I'm not a regulations expert or a DEFRA expert, but what I do understand is that most products get tested routinely, and I think because we have quite a number of products on the DEFRA list, I think we probably get tested a little bit more frequent than someone else. And from LANXESS point of view, DEFRA recommend LANXESS. Whenever there's an outbreak, they recommend LANXESS as being the disinfectant to clean up with. So I think because they're advising, they're making sure that their advice is always up to date and making sure that the product is still valid for their recommendation. So I think that's part of the reason for the frequency. I can assure you and anybody else, next year, LANXESS is 40 years old. 40 years old, that product's been going next year. And we've never changed the formulation once. And we have information from every single batch that we've made. Historically, we've got the in-house test results. We can show DEFRA that. And I think that's why once it's off, it comes on relatively quickly.
Yeah.
We have to submit another sample for it to be retested, but we can also submit our own in-house formulations. And it's not changed for 40 years. And I think that's why, A, it's still recognised as being a very good product in the industry. And B, it's just a global name, and people trust it. And look, if DEFRA trust it, then it clearly works. And interestingly, we have a few countries that we're supplying to as well, where they're not DEFRA related at all, but they often say, "Is it DEFRA approved?" Because certain countries respect DEFRA's tight regime and tight responsibility on these products, and if DEFRA is approved for the UK, then it's okay for Czechoslovakia, for example. They're happy to accept it because it's accepted in the UK.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I can assure people that whenever it gets tested, if it ever fails a test that it previously passed, we submit another sample, submit the evidence, very quickly test, and it's back on the list.
Thanks for that clarification there, Wayne. Now, I'd like to thank you for coming on today. And just before we do round up, and we have spoke about ways of helping people and giving some advice there. And it is looking like it's going to be a hard winter, and touching a lot of wood that it's not going to be. But we're at the mercy of the environment. So just before we do wrap up, from yourself, is there anything that you'd like to say to the listeners around how we can try and keep this at bay?
I think, as I mentioned earlier, we do have what I call biosecurity fatigue. People get sick of hearing it, but I think it's a really important subject. And biosecurity is not changing foot dips, it's not doing whatever. Biosecurity is just a word that covers almost a set of procedures, a set of measures that you put in place to help minimize disease risk and to minimize cross-contamination, things like that. It's not rocket science. No, everyone, I think, wants to do the right thing. If you're not sure, speak to someone, speak to the experts. We're here to help you. Other suppliers are here to help you, or the farmer. And look, we don't expect farmers to be chemistry experts. We don't expect other people to be chemistry experts. When I used to work for the likes of Fazenda and Gramping, the people like that, I relied on people that were in positions that I'm in now to tell me the truth, give me the advice, and I would take notes of that advice and I'd use it. I'm in a different position now. I'm part of the advisor team, if you like. Give it a ring. No, there's no stupid questions. If you're not sure, give people a ring. Give your supplier a ring. Check with DEFRA. Check on the list. If you're not sure, speak to someone. But don't get fed up of being told biosecurity. It is our real defense. You won't stop diseases. You won't stop diseases circulating globally, locally, regionally, but you do your best to stop them infecting your farm.
Well, I can't have asked for much more there, Wayne, so thank you very much. And thank you to everybody for listening to At the Farm Gate. A big thank you to Wayne from LANXESS for sharing his expertise on protecting flocks during the challenging AI season that we're seeing. So with outbreaks continuing to challenge poultry health, effective cleaning and disinfection routines are more important than ever. Wayne has shared practical advice producers can apply on farm, and organisations like LiveSec can provide additional guidance and tailored plans to help strengthen biosecurity. If you found the episode useful, be sure to subscribe and don't miss future insights from the front line of poultry production. Thank you very much.
Cheers, thank you.